Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weishuhn. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Smokin Tex electric smokers. Feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Well, thank you, boys, for that nice introduction, and Mr. Whitetail is right here with us. Good morning to you, Larry. I know you're ready to visit with all of our friends today.
Absolutely, I am, Luke, and I'm so thrilled to be here with you for all these many years. Look forward to many, many more. But we got to thank very quickly DSC, Conservation, Education, Advocacy, Hornady, Accurate, Diddley, Dependable, Stealth Vision, right there in Crockett, Texas, make some of the finest scopes available. VINEYARDMAX, of course, they're just over close to Nacogdoches, and they make the VINEYARDMAX attractant, but also feeders and all kinds of other good things. Of course, Taurus, that the handguns that I'm going to be using a bunch this year, and maybe even a Rossi lever action rifle. And then, of course, I always got to thank Mossberg, too. They're, Mossberg rifles and shotguns are made down in Eagle Pass, Texas. Now, all that said, with all those sponsors, and thank to all the people who've been listening to us as well, too, these many years. What's that I smell? What are you doing?
Larry, friends, we do the TV show, the digital show we do for Carbon TV every week, and then it's on YouTube. It's called A Sportsman's Life. Well, we call that Real World Outdoors, and it is just that. We show exactly what happens. You might catch a big fish like the last show. Jeff and I were fishing with Tony Pennybaker out at Lake Tawakoni. Jeff caught a 40-pound blue catfish, and we caught a bunch of them 20 and less. We really did. But that's real world outdoors. That's really happened. But we've also been fishing at places and hunting when it was a less than a banner day, So, and we show that too, the real world. Well, I was just thinking, Larry, give our listeners a little bit of a backstory. I want to tell a little real world radio how this thing really happens every week. How
okay.
So each week, Larry and I, we talk several times a week because we do multiple things together. We've written books together, and we're just good friends. And personally, I just like to see what Larry's up to. I enjoy visiting with him. And
same here.
I know so. So, it'll go like something like this. I'll send Larry a text. Well, let's record at 7:30. Just before you're hearing all this, it's always fresh. But we record it, and then it becomes radio, and the radio show becomes podcast, Catfish Radio with Luke Clayton and Friends. Well, anyway, so I'd say let's record at 7 in the morning. Well, I did that last night with Larry, and then I get the bright idea. I'm going over to my buddy Kenneth Shepard. He lives about a mile from me. Kenneth is my designated technical guru. We shoot together a lot and hunt together. I hunt hogs on Kenneth's place throughout the year. But I got an ATN Thor. It's the LTV thermal digital. It's the 320. I got that in from ATN, the company, the thermal company. So got the scope in a couple of days ago. So Kenneth and I had planned on going over, and he's got a bench, and he's about a pretty darn good gunsmith, to be honest with you. But he's going to mount that for me, and we're going to sight it in that ATN Thor. So I'm thinking, I get the bright idea about 40 minutes ago. Why don't I make a bunch of breakfast tacos? I've got some Kuby's venison, pork, breakfast sausage that Larry's about to take delivery of his share. Some of Mr. Whitetail's venison and a wild porker that Jeff Rice and I shot. And Kuby's is a awesome game processing place in Dallas. They make the best stuff, best sausages you can get. Anyway, why don't I get all the gear together real quick, pepper, jalapeno peppers, onions, little salsa, potatoes, the sausage, etc., and make some of the really good breakfast tacos, Larry. That's what I was thinking about 45 minutes ago. I can do that before I call Larry, before you and I record. I got a new one of these stand-up two-burner cookers, fish fryer type of deal, just two burners that stand up on legs, basically. So wanted to try it out. I'm out there. My wife says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm loading up. I'm thinking I'll make a bunch of tacos." She said, "I thought you was going to record with Larry." I said, "Oh, plenty of time for that." So I get out there in the real world, folks. I'm about 3/4 of the way through making these tacos. I'm heating the tortillas in another skillet, and if you ever made breakfast tacos, you know what I'm talking about. Eggs mixed in there. And I thought, whoa, wait a minute. Here it is, 5 after 7. I'm never late. So Larry got a text. Can you give me 20 minutes? so Larry, here we are. We're gonna have some fun with our segment like we've done for 18 years. And then after that, I'll go over to Mr. Kenneth, deliver some fresh breakfast tacos. I think that'll put him in the mood for shooting in that AT.
I'll tell you what, I like how you plan things. I really do, and I'll bet he does too, because I know how good those breakfast tacos are. I've had them in the past, and I'm kind of kicking myself that I'm not driving up your way right now to meet you.
Well, I've got I think 13 of those packages of the breakfast sausage from Kuby's that belongs to Mr. Whitetail with your venison in it. So when I delivered Jeff's to him when we went fishing earlier this week. So I've got yours for you. You've got some events coming up, Larry, soon, don't you?
We do. And, it's that time of the year as far as I'm concerned. I've been very fortunate to, I spoke not very long ago in New Braunfels for the Texas Big Game Awards. And then a little over a week ago or so, I was up at Lufkin for their Texas Big Game Awards speaking and spending time with those guys. And But you're right, Luke. 40 years ago in 1985, Gary Machen, Murphy Ray, and I, and unfortunately both Murphy and Gary are no longer with us, but the three of us started the Texas Wildlife Association. And it has grown like most people can never believe it. I really would suggest that if we've done so much in terms with kids and in schools and all those other kind of things, and including now an adult adult learn to hunt program as well too, to go along with the 40,000 kids that we have taken hunting on their first hunting trip through the organization. So we're celebrating our 40th anniversary at the JW Marriott on the north side of San Antonio. Actually, it's the 10th through the 12th. So this coming weekend, not this one we're in. We celebrated our July 4th, but next week, starting actually Thursday and Friday and Saturday, and all kinds of great things. You don't have to be a member to get into the convention. You can just register when you get there, or you can still go online if you want to texas-wildlife.org and learn a little bit more about that event. But really looking forward to that. We've got a bunch of the past presidents coming in that I'm going to mess with on stage, and got some auction items that are just phenomenal. And the beauty of our members is that some of these members, there's no way to hunt their property unless you're a poacher, and I strongly would not advise that, because these guys are very careful about their properties. But a lot of times we have hunts that come available in that auction that are not available to the public. And if you can't be there in person, you can go to onlinehuntingauctions.com and look up Texas Wildlife Association and see that. So that's coming up. And then the following weekend is the DSC, kind of the mini convention show. So we'll talk about that a little bit next time. But love for people to learn more about Texas Wildlife Association. And if they can, gosh, I'd love to see them there in San Antonio. You
bet. Well, it's got to be a great feeling, experience, to have been one of the three founders of the Texas Wildlife Association way back there 40 years ago. And see, that's a real contribution, in my opinion. I mean, that's something that's meaningful and lasting. It'll go on what you started, you and the other guys way back there, the seed had to be planted, and you guys had the forethought, and you saw that there was a need there. But just imagine, as it goes on, as time goes on, and it's still, it will be a legacy of sorts. Honestly, Larry,
Well, I certainly hope so, because like I said, if people are not familiar with the Texas Wildlife Association, I strongly suggest that they do so. The many things, the many programs that we as an organization are involved in, as far as I'm concerned, when you get right down to it, if you love the outdoors, whether it's to hunt, fish, or just like to sit outdoors, by God, you ought to be a member, because it's we need the numbers, because as we go more and more to an urban state and away from some of the people who actually spend time outdoors, education becomes a strong thing to let people know about the outdoors as well, even if they don't get to experience it. And that's part of Texas Wildlife Association's long-time goal too, is just to educate more people about hunting and fishing, and why it's important that we hunt and fish. And if you want to have wildlife, you got to have hunting and fishing kind of thing here in Texas, so as anywhere else in the world. But yeah, it's going to be a great event. I'm really looking forward to it. There's a lot of old friends, and the beauty of it is, every time I go every year, it's I see so many people that I've never met. And then occasionally too, we see, guys who 40 years ago were still youngsters that now have got children of their own that are very strongly involved in Texas Wildlife Association. So it's going to be a great event, and really would love to see as many people there as we can.
It'll be lots of fun, and it does, like you mentioned there, Larry, does a whole bunch of good. Well, we're about, it's about time to extinguish our campfire, I guess, this week, but I believe this is 18 and 1/2 years that you and I have shared the campfire. Would we call this a digital or a terrestrial campfire on the radio and all? Each week we have, Larry and I. And I'll put a plug in for our books, people that might be listening. Larry he's had several books, but Deer Addictions is one. It's about Larry's vast deer hunting experiences, and a lot of knowledge packed in that. And we have Campfire Talks that I wrote a book with Larry called Campfire Talk, and then one about hog hunting, all about hog hunting. Now, you can order these things through Larry's website. Larry, give them your website if you would.
That website is LarryWeishuhn.net, all run together, spelled LarryWeishuhn.net. And then, of course, they're available on your website as well, too, which is catfishradio.org. So love to hear from folks there. We'll be more than happy to send every book that we send out is autographed by both Luke and I. And if you want it inscribed a little bit to somebody special, you can make note of that when you order the book there on the websites.
Okay, Larry. Well, thank you for those websites, putting those out there. And I guess it's time for me to load those tacos up and head down to do some shooting with that ATN Thor. I have to. It's a new scope for me. I've heard so many great reviews on it, but I still have to stop. And it is an ATN. That's the company, Thor, and the model is a LTV. I've looked at it. I haven't shot it yet, but I am sure excited. Larry, we'll be back with them next week. How about that?
Yes, we will.
Folks, I want to introduce you to VINEYARDMAX. Now, this is an awesome deer attractant, a food attractant that's made with hammer-milled grape skin, dried hammer-milled grape skins. It has a mixture of rice bran and also corn chops. Very effective. Deer can smell the scent of grapes from a long way, and it brings them in. I've used it in West Texas out with Larry Weishuhn, and we were out there where deer are not even exposed to grapes, and they came right in. Also, VINEYARDMAX has a very good line of game and fish feeders. Check them out online, vineyardmax.net. Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weishuhn is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Look, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34-millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. they have a little green light that comes on. That scope is leveled because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well too, and a whole lot of other products. And folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
Friends, I want to tell you about an awesome camping destination, Wind Point Park on Lake Tawakoni. It's over on the far east side, kind of the northeast side of the lake. It's a pristine park. You can go there and view, I think they estimated a couple of hundred deer on that couple of hundred acres there. Cabins, beautiful RV park, fishing piers, docks. It's got everything you'd want in an outdoor destination. Check them out online at windpointparktx.com. Folks, this segment is made possible by Smokin Tex electric smokers that I've been using a long, long time, CatfishPro, catfishing baits and catfish supplies, Ultrimatic Feeders. I'd like you to check out the big bore air gun that I've done a great deal of hunting with. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw, 50 caliber, pressures up to 3,000 psi, and it looks like a conventional rifle. Wooden stock. I think you'll like the appearance, and I know you'll like the performance. It shoots not only bullets, but also air bolts as well, tipped with a broadhead. Check it out. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw. Well, friends, let's load up. Let's head to Lake Texoma. Guess who's up there with some information that we all need about stripers? Mr. Bill Carey. Bill, good morning to you, sir.
Well, good morning, Luke, and all y'all out in radio land.
Good morning, Bill. And you've told me that fishing, striper catching is real good at Texoma now. We'll get into that. It's there's a little disclaimer there about how you're catching them, but it's good. You told me a bunch of what you call 806ers, all our friends up in the Panhandle. A bunch of those folks have been coming to the nearest good fishing spot, which is Texoma, and some of them have caught some big old fish. Bill, let's do this. I think most people that, and probably everybody that listens to this show, I try to touch on Texoma updates every week. About a month ago, Texoma was the color of chocolate milk all over. Now, and I think most people that listen to our show know that. Striper fishing was tough. Actually, most people, everybody that I know that striper fish for a period of couple of weeks there, it was they went other places. But now some big stripers are being caught on big live shad. Now, I know Striper Express, your guide service, is founded on artificial bait fishing. Well, that hasn't worked. It's so muddy, or it has been off color. That's changing. It is. It's changing. But those big gizzard shad, I mean, I saw the pictures on Facebook yesterday. Little Dave, who's been, we call him Little Captain Little Dave, and a great fisherman, and he's always uses live bait. Some around 20 pounds, 3 or 4 of them, it looked like, Bill.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you, I get excited, Luke. You're right. We lean towards lures, but, with this live bait, the old-fashioned way was put an anchor down and put out 10 rods, and when the rod pulls down, grab the rod. No, we hold the rod. So you're setting the hook. You're fighting that fish to the finish. And, yes, sir, we've had some big fish show up. We had 3 that were going on the wall yesterday. They were all right at 20 pounds, and it was just phenomenal. So I'm excited.
I could tell in your voice. I saw the pictures, and folks, in 3 days, Larry Weishuhn and Jeff Rice and I, we do a weekly, one of the only weekly TV shows that I know about. In other words, we do something one week. It's on, Jeff Rice produces it, and it's on Carbon TV the next week. And YouTube also. It's called A Sportsman's Life, and you can go to YouTube or Carbon TV and type in A Sportsman's Life and watch it. But what I'm getting at, well, we're going to be up there with you, Bill, in about 3 days. And our next show, radio show, we'll be able to, I want to get you back and give a rundown of exactly what happened, and it's real world outdoors. Sometimes you you have a banner day and sometimes you don't. But fishing up there with little Dave with those big shad, I got a feeling we're going to catch some good ones, and people can watch it on The Sportsman's Life. Well, right now, actually, you can. It should, or within the next day or so, should be posted. So, Bill, it's going to be fun. We're all pumped up and ready to drop a frisky shad down. You
bet, Luke. Yep. I'll tell you how it happened. Little Dave throws that cast net before the people get here, and he found some big gizzard shad. Folks, most of us know that the food forage for most of the fish is shad. There's two kinds, threadfin and gizzard. Gizzard is the one that will get a foot long. Little Dave said he found some that were about 6 inches long, and that's how he caught them big fish.
Yeah. Honestly, of course, I discovered Texoma. I was an old East Texas bass fisherman, or fisherman for catfish, everything else in East Texas. I grew up in Red River County, northeast Texas. So I did not discover Texoma until I was probably close to 30 years old.
Me too.
Yeah, and I was just a budding outdoor rider. I just had just getting started pretty good. In a career riding outdoor hook and bullet stories, so I got invited up there to fish with several different people, and live bait was the king. I didn't catch a fish on artificials for at least 2 or 3 years. I'd always go up and fish with the guides are passed on now, that I fished with, but to me, I mean, you drop those live shad down if you're around some stripers, and you better hang on, hadn't you?
Oh yeah. Luke, I started fishing this lake in '77, and it was all artificial. I fished a tournament. I used a guide for 5 years. I went pro in '83. I fished a tournament right before I went pro with my guide, and some boys came in and won that thing 2 days in a row. And by 9 a.m., I went over there to congratulate them, and I said, "May I ask how you did it?" And they said, "We brought our own foot-long gizzard shad." And I walked away like Poindexter, scratching my head, going, "Live bait." Nobody had heard of it.
Yeah.
So it swept that side of the lake.
It did.
And then I was out of Highport, and a boy moved in from Florida who threw a big old 12-foot cast net, and he was a bait fisherman, and he taught us how to use those shad. So I tell these kids now, even though we lean towards the lures, I said, you got to throw that net about 10,000 times to catch up with this old man, because we used it too after I went pro.
Yeah. And
I told my boys for years, Luke, I don't care how you catch them, catch them.
I know you've always had a saying, we don't book boat rides or something like that. In other words, right. Don't expect just to go out there and have a scenic tour. Expect to get your rod bent, and really, I mean, honestly, live bait fishing to me, I love it. I won't kid you. I love to catch them on top waters. I love to catch them on slabs, but I just love to catch them. And
that's right.
Live bait fishing is somewhat like slab fishing. Not exactly. Slab fishing is just that instant electrical wham. They hit it, and they shake that rod all the way to the butt of the rod. You've got them. But live bait, it can be a little finesse fishing. Bill, I've caught some big stripers. I'm talking about 15-pounders on live bait, where you feel that shad getting nervous down there in a 6 or 8 inch shad. Yeah. He's big enough he's going to twitch that rod. When you feel that rascal hopping around down there, there's probably a big old striper eyeing him up, I mean, that's what happens, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. They get nervous like that. It's, I can't wait to get y'all up here. We're going to have a blast because, little Dave, he's all about limits. And he'll go out with our lures like we do. And if he's not happy with the way it is, he'll finish up with bait. And he'll be sitting on a bait tank with some bait, and he's all about catching everybody limits. And catching them big fish just got us revved up right now.
Yeah, well, Larry Weishuhn has never fished with live shad, never done it. And he said, "What's it like, Luke?" I said, "Well, fishing's fishing. You can't always write the story before you go, but chances are real good with live shad out there with Striper Express that we're going to get our line stretched, and
you better believe it.
You know, so that it would be nice. Who knows? Those 20-pounders, they don't, like a big old whitetail buck, they don't happen every time. But right now, Bill, here's a question for you while I'm thinking about big baits.
Okay.
And of course, I've been writing about the outdoors and fishing Texoma so long, I forgot half of the stuff I've done out there in 25, 30 years ago, but and less time than that. But I was fishing with an old boy out there probably 20 years ago in the middle of summer, this time of year or July. And he says, Luke, there's a deep channel or whatever out in the middle, and we were out in the middle somewhere. I don't even know where we were. He said they had these long spoons. These things, you might remember back, those big old, I don't know, 7, 8 inch long spoons.
Flutter spoons?
Steel, made out of steel, not lead slabs, but spoons. Big ones. He said, we're using these big spoons out over this channel at noon. 12, 1 o'clock. I said, you got to be kidding me. He said, yeah, they're those, and we caught some, 10, 15-pound stripers, those big baits. So I don't doubt had we had 6 or 8 inch gizzard shad had dropped down, we'd have done the same thing, But those fish were blowing up. Have you ever heard of? I'm sure you have, but it's kind of a different pattern that I'd ever seen out there.
I've got a good story about that. We had a good regular customer who came out of Oklahoma City, and he flew in his plane. He said, I want to go fishing as soon as I get in. And it was at 2 o'clock in July. I tell everybody, we board and depart at 5:30 a.m. We run, go find that first topwater school. We get an hour, hour and a half of that, and then we drop slabs and rip them for about another hour, hour and a half. I said, you'll be catching, then you won't. What's going on is those fish are shutting down. It's over. Well, Chris went out there at 2 o'clock. He said, Dad, we hammered them. We hammered them on slabs. And he said, I think those fish group back up. They bust up over all that boat pressure, running them hard. When those fish sound, we drop slabs because they quit surfacing, and we follow them with electronics. And then it's over. I tell people, you'll be catching, then you won't. When you're not, it's over. So when it's unanimous, get some wind in your face, get back to the marina, take pictures, have your guy clean your catch, and go find some air because it's getting warm quick. You don't know it's hot till you hit land.
Yes.
But he went out there at 2 o'clock in July and caught fish. Just there you go.
That's I figured you had seen it. Another thing that the guides are doing, Bill and his crew up there, they've got another lake that's not far from there that's packed with hybrids. Got a lot of good hybrids in it. We fished there a while back with you, and lots and lots of big sand bass. So you guys are still running people that just want to lure fish. Fish with slabs and those soft plastics. You're still going over there.
We covered our tail over this flood. Because, folks, this is the Red River Valley dammed up. And like Luke said, you could plant watermelons in this water. And I say, why do you think they call it the Red River?
Yeah. Well, I crossed the Red downstream at Paris a couple of times, and I noticed I was over there last week, and it had receded, starting to recede. The level, the flow of the river was slowing down. You can see probably 3 foot more of bank. Well, Bill, thanks for the update. I've had people comment that when you and I get together on the radio on this show, weekly show, that it's like two old friends talking, and that's what I like. I appreciate the radio station seeing the worth of this. I mean, yeah, it is. It's a visit, but friends, if you listen very much, you'll pick up from my friends like Bill. You'll pick up some tips that'll help you on the water or out in the woods. So, thank you, Bill, for being a regular on the show, man. I really appreciate it, and I get a lot of good comments. I do.
We're ambassadors of the great outdoors, and we just want people to come experience all of it. You do so much hunting. We do the fishing. We kind of cover all bases for everybody.
That's right. Well, folks, Striper Express is easy to find everywhere. The website is striperexpress.com. But, Bill, how do they want to call the office and plan them a trip or get more information? What's a good number to call?
Shoot, y'all can call us, folks, at 903-786-4477. That is 903-786-4477.
Thank you, Bill, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here in about 2 or 3 days. We'll be up there and we'll be ready. Folks, let's talk a little outdoor cooking. Let me tell you about an electric smoker that I've been using for 15 years, I guess. Smokin Tex electric smokers. If you're tired of staying up all night keeping that wood fire burning when you're barbecuing, give Smokin Tex a try. They're made to last a lifetime. You can check them out at SmokinTex.com. That's SMOKINTEX.com. For seasonings, anything to do with outdoor cooking, all kind of jerky seasonings, sausage seasonings, Butcher Packer Supply. That's butcherpackersupply.com. I think the website is butcher-packer.com. I want to tell you about a one-stop shop for everything related to game feeders and fish feeders, Ultrimatic Feeders. I've been using components and feeders from Ultrimatic Feeders for 20-something years, I guess. They have the remote, which you can remotely activate your feeder with, the timer, which is the most simple timer that I've ever found on a game feeder, and then the eliminator. Check these out. They are worked on, actually on centrifugal force, and they seal off the corn supply so coons and squirrels can't get to the corn. Check them out. Ultrimatic Feeders, you could go online to ultimaticfeeders.com. Friends, this segment is made possible by Platinum Cadillac and Chevrolet in Terrell, Texas. Stop by and visit with my buddy, Mr. Justin Rudd, and his team of experts, and let them put you in a new Chevy pickup or a Cadillac or whatever you might be in the market for. Also, the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma. Check them out at ChoctawHuntingLodge.com. Also made possible by Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Well, friends, we've had some hunting talk with Mr. Whitetail like we've been doing for about 18 and a half years every week on our show. Mr. Bill Carey talking about catching some 20-pound stripers up at Lake Texoma. Let's talk about some big catfish with a good friend of mine, Jeff Rice. Jeff, thank you for being with us, buddy.
Always glad to join you, my friend.
I love to get you on. Folks, Jeff actually produces our TV show that's called A Sportsman's Life. I know those of you that listen to our show every week, you've heard Jeff giving some filming tips and everything else, and the show is also on Carbon TV. It's a fresh, new show every week, and I think I know that Jeff has got some awesome video from a catfishing trip just a few days ago, actually, on Lake Tawakoni with our buddy guide Tony Pennybaker. Guess what? Old Jeff caught a 40-pound catfish on a rod and reel. Jeff, are you still has the nerve settled after catching that old big fish, buddy?
Oh man, I tell you what, to catch a fish like that's a special thing, and of course Tony really knows that lake. He knows how to put you on those fish, and I mean, not only did we catch that one, we caught a lot of really nice fish, maybe between 12 and 15 pounds, the blue catfish, and
yeah.
I'm telling you, we couldn't have had more fun. Had a beautiful day. It was overcast most of the morning that we were out there, and the conditions were right. We had great rods and reels. The equipment is always important. Of course, we had cut bait, and Tony just knew where to put us. And buddy, was that not a fun day?
Oh, I had an absolute ball, Jeff. And when we headed out from his dock there, I was really thinking, well, we're probably going to be fishing some intermediate depths, maybe 12, 15 foot deep. But no, we were fishing water 3 to 4 foot deep. And one of the things, of course, Tony was on our show a couple of weeks ago, Tony Pennybaker, and giving some tips. But we were fishing 3 to 4 foot of water, and one of the areas, there's just a maybe it was an old depression where there was a pond years ago, but just a tad deeper. But, that's not where you caught the big one. But the water we were fishing was about 4 foot deep, and I was kidding everybody with it. I caught one about 15 pounds, and whoa, look at this. I was hoping that we'd get what's really considered a trophy. And we did. We pulled a bunch of good eater blue catfish from that area. But we weren't connecting with the whole deal was to try to catch a trophy size one in the summer. And that's what Jeff did. But, a lot of times most people think of the trophy season, Jeff, for blue catfish, and this was a constant for years, starting with the first cool front in October and lasting through maybe the end of March. But Tony and some other guides there at Tawakoni have started targeting these big ones throughout the summer. And by golly, I don't think there was little doubt in Tony's mind that we would at least connect with one or two. Big old fish like that, you won't get every one of them you hook, but you did a good job. You just kept the tension on the rod and let that rod and the reel's drag do the work. And you a horse, one that big, you can't horse him, as they say. You better not be pulling too hard, because he's going to be pulling hard the other direction, isn't he, Jeff?
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, one of the most important things when you're out trying to catch a fish of this magnitude and this size is having good equipment.
Yeah.
You have to know how to use that equipment, but you have to have good equipment, have your drag set right. You got to check them before you even throw the bait out there. And Tony, I watched Tony as he threw every one of those lines out.
Mm-hmm.
He would check that drag. You got to make darn sure you're prepared for when you do catch or hook into a big one like that, because they're big critters. And I tell you what, hold on, because they'll run some drag on you and stuff. And you just have to be prepared. And of course, Tony was there real quick with the net, and, the rest, I guess they say, is history. But, I've caught a handful of large blue catfish. And it's funny because all of the ones I've caught prior to this one were in the winter months.
Yeah.
And you're right. Tony's like, well, those fish are still there and they still feed. It's just knowing where they're at. And of course, Tony had a really good idea, because I know he's caught several good ones out in this area. So, but what a heck of a lot of fun. And just spending the day in the water with two good friends. It doesn't get any better than that, buddy.
And especially with that's right. And the snow white fillets from those 4 to 15 pounders. Of course, we released the big one, and we always do that. But no, I followed Tawakoni, Jeff, for years, and fishing with some David Hansen, and who's a good friend of Tony's and ours too. But with some people that make their living catching catfish. And in the late 80s, Lake Tawakoni was stocked with blues. A blue cat is basically a river fish. There were a few in Tawakoni before the heavy several 100,000 of them were stocked. There would be blues in there because of the Sabine River, but not many. Mostly the big fish, but prior to, say, 1990, were flatheads. And it used to be, and I'm sure the flatheads are still there, but you just fish for them a little differently. A lot of people use live bait for the flatheads, and occasionally a flathead is still caught. But now the blues, and the constant, though, for up until probably 2 or 3 years ago, strictly, now's the time to start using punch bait for channel catfish and shift from the blues. But people have learned that they'll bite all year. It's just a matter of, I would have never dreamed, had I not had some tips from Tony, that we'd be catching blue catfish, a bunch of them, and some big ones in water 3 or 4 foot deep this time of year,
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. I thought the same thing. I thought, fishing that shallow for those big fish, it seemed a little bit odd, but Tony knows what he's doing. That's why, he's a great guide. He's a great guy, a lot of fun to hang with. And between the three of us, we just had an absolutely spectacular day on the water. And of course, when I got home, blackened blue catfish. I'm telling you, buddy, it was so good.
The same day, right? The same.
Oh yeah.
The wife was ready for some blackened fish, wasn't she?
Oh, she sure was. She said, "Don't come home without any."
have the seasoning. Here's a tip that we learned. Jeff and I learned together. It's not rocket science, but we discovered the backwoods blackening seasoning by Cabela's. It's a big old shaker of it. It's not too salty for blackening fish, and then some unsalted butter is what I use, and then squeeze some lemon on there. Yeah, but we cook it a little differently than some people. Some people use a white hot skillet. for blackening fish. But put a little extra butter in there, and I tell people, well, if you use a white hot skillet, number one, you're going to have smoke. You're going to look like a forest fire when that skillet gets hot. But what are you going to do with that fish after it's charred? I mean, it's great cooked that way. You're going to put some lemon butter on it, you know? So why not just cook it in lemon butter? That's what that's the way we've done it, and it's a good way to blacken fish, isn't it?
Yep, that's exactly what I did. I used the Cabela seasoning, butter, lemon, just like you said. And it was out of this world fabulous. You got to love blue catfish, you know, those under 15 pounds, you know, some of the smaller ones. You just load up on a few of those, and well, I tell you what, that really, I don't think there's any better eating as far as catfish goes. You know, I'm
with you. I know Tony. Of course, Tony makes his living putting people on catfish, folks. Tony Pennybaker. And he says, you know, this, we wound up filleting maybe, or he filleted them for us and bagged them up. But I think probably, I don't know, 12 or 15 blue catfish, somewhere around, say, 12 or so. But he said, you know, and that was like 3 gallons of snow white fillets. He said, this would equal limits more than, you'd have more catfish to eat from these than you would have 3 limits of channel cat. And that's the truth, you know.
Yep, for sure. And there was a lot of catfish in those bags, and it just gets you excited. It's like, okay, I'm ready for a fish fry. And like I said, the minute I got home, it's like, get out the skillet. Here we go.
well, Jeff, I think, you know, just recorded with Bill Carey, Striper Express, and we're going to be up there with him later this week. So that's something else to look forward to. Another video for you. It'll be some newspaper articles for me, and Larry Weishuhn will be with us. He's got some magazine assignments there, I think, a couple of those. And the next thing is go up to beautiful Texoma. The news now is big old gizzard shad, maybe 6 to 8 inch long gizzard shad, live shad, producing. Yesterday they produced 3 around 20 pounds, stripers. So, catfish are fun. Stripers are also fun, and we've got another show and a bunch of fun planned here later this week. Life is good, Jeff, you know?
Absolutely. And for you folks listening out there, you want to watch these adventures, check us out, Carbon TV and or YouTube. It's A Sportsman's Life, and you can see all the action. I mean, we certainly can talk about it and tell you the stories, but if you really want to see it, you know, just visit us on our you know, YouTube channel or our Carbon TV channel, A Sportsman's Life, and you'll actually get to see us catch these fish and head up to visit Bill Carey and some striper fishing up there and all sorts of fun other adventures, right, Luke?
That's right. You'd be surprised the number of emails. I get a lot of people. My emails come through catfishradio.org. There's my email address is there, and people that it's like the rest of the story. You know, they hear us talking about things and hunts and things like that. Well, I don't know another spot where you can do something one day, film it, and when the next week, almost always, is on there to watch. So if you enjoy our little visits, folks, and I know a lot of you do, just remember you can watch the action there on The Sportsman's Life. Jeff, thank you, buddy, for being with us and telling everybody how much fun it is to catch a big blue catfish.
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking forward to our next outdoor adventure, my friend.
For about the past decade, I've been hunting editor for Airgun Hobbyist magazine. I think the only magazine devoted strictly to airgun shooting and hunting in the country. Well, in that length of time, I've learned quite a bit about big bore air guns and smaller calibers too. A spot to go to that if you're interested in air guns, you need to know about Pyramyd Air. The website is PYRAMYD, PyramydAir.com. They have anything and everything you need, from the guns themselves, the big bores or the smaller calibers, to the accessories. Just remember PyramydAir.com, and there's a number when you get on the website if you need to call and talk to somebody. Give them a buzz, and they can fill you in on little details that you might need to know about shooting or hunting with big bore air guns.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, this segment is brought to us by CVA Muzzleloaders. In my opinion, the very best muzzleloaders in the world, the ones that I shoot. You can check them out online, CVA.com. Kuby's Wild Game Processing and Kuby's Restaurant in Dallas, and VINEYARDMAX, maker of some awesome deer attractant and some very fine game feeders and fish feeders, located down in Nacogdoches, Texas. Check them out at vineyardmax.net. Well, folks, I hope you've enjoyed our show thus far. We've had some striper talk. Those old stripers up at Texoma, still a little bit off-colored water, but they're hitting a live shad. Bill Carey was telling us all about that. Mr. Whitetail, my buddy Larry, we're always talking some fun stuff, you know. And then Jeff Rice was on, talking about that big 40-pound blue. By the way, that show is on Carbon TV right now. You can go to carbontv.com. You can go to YouTube and just type in A Sportsman's Life and check that out. That's a pretty big catfish he caught last week. Now, we're going to talk to Mr. Kelly Reeves. Now, my whole intent is to introduce you, if you don't already know about it, to an awesome Texas magazine. It's called Life and Land Magazine. There's a website where you can actually read it online, lifeandlandmagazine.com. But Kelly's going to spend some time, and we're going to talk about an awesome Texas magazine. Kelly, thank you, buddy, for being with us.
Man, I'm proud to be with you.
You know, I've read, the last few days I've been looking at some past issues of Life and Land magazine. This is perfectly suited to the things I like, life and land. I mean, it's not all hunting, it's not all fishing. It's not all about, improving the land or food plots, or it's a combination of all that. And it's interesting stuff. And hats off, Kelly, for this magazine. I know it's been well received already. How many years has it been out now?
A little over 3 years.
Yeah. Yep. Well, the topics. You know, there's hunting. I write for several hunting magazines, hunting and fishing. But this one here, it's just, it appeals to people like me, which I consider myself pretty much a hardcore hook and bullet guy. But it'd also appeal to someone that just a general interest in the outdoors, you know. So it's a great magazine.
I tell you what, the thing that has surprised me most about this magazine is how many women subscribe and read it and enjoy it. We've got a little lady over here at Chandler, Texas, who when I first met her, it was on a phone call, and she said, "Hey, I saw this magazine in my dentist's office," and she said, "I stole the blame thing." She said, "My husband has passed away, but he was not an outdoorsman." She said, "My daddy was not an outdoorsman." She said, "But I can't get enough of it." And I've talked to this lady 5 or 6 times over the years, and several months ago she called because somebody had stolen one from the library in Chandler. Mm-hmm. They subscribe and get 2 magazines. Somebody stole one, and she was quite upset. She wanted to know when I could get another one down there. But it does. Everybody seems to enjoy it. There's a little something for everybody in there.
It is. I read an article about, natural plants, the plants that the Native Americans had to depend on, and I wish I knew more about that kind of thing. I know a little bit about it, poke salad and things like that, but there's a plant called sourdock that I used to grow up as a kid. But there was an article on dock, D-O-C-K. It's a variety of plants, I think. But I had no idea, that you could eat the roots and the whole thing like that. But there's so much, I think, Kelly, that's been lost by I hate to say it, but by modern man. I mean, if we knew a fraction, the Native American people, they had to depend on things, the nature, what comes out in nature to survive. And wouldn't it be interesting to be able to interview some of those people back, say 200 or 300 years ago, that they didn't have a pharmacy or medical facility to go to. They had to depend on what nature provided, didn't they?
That's right. And nowadays we've got kind of spoiled.
We have, we have for a fact. Well, as far as articles, and this might open this up to some people that I've got several friends that are honestly good writers. They can express their thoughts well on, I would say, on paper, but in a Word document nowadays, Right. But they're not professional writers. I've been doing writing for 42 years for the newspapers and magazines and stuff like that. But it's kind of what I do. But I've noticed just good, common sense, practical articles by people that contribute to your magazine, and hats off to you for, you saw the value in it and published it,
I'll tell you what, when I first got started, a fella called me, and he told me he'd written 2 or 3 articles, but he loved writing, but he was having trouble getting anything published other than on the internet. And he said, man, if there's any way you would consider publishing one of my articles, it would tickle me to death. He was trying to get into some type of writers organization, and you had to have a certain number, 5 or 6 published articles to get involved in this writers organization. And so we did. He wrote me some articles and did a good job with it, and they were interesting, and we published them, and now he's part of his organization, whatever that was.
Yeah, that's good. I remember 41 years ago when I first started writing, and I never will forget, the Mesquite, Texas newspaper was my first paid gig, if you want to call it that. And it grew from there, the Dallas Morning News, and then I started writing for the Texas Almanac. And but I remember, in the very beginning, and it was different back then. There weren't so many publications, and there was no internet, of course. There was it was hard to break into it because, well, what if you had published? Where do you, well, nothing, but you got to start somewhere. And that old editor there in the Mesquite News, I think I made, I don't know, very little, but he paid me a little money, and then it was owned by Hart Hanks Newspapers, and a group of 13 papers, and then it just grew like that. But anyway, it's good to have your magazine. It's color, and people can. How do people subscribe to it? I mean, I know you can read it online too.
Absolutely, anybody can read it online with or without a subscription. To get the print copy, if you'll go online, there's a shopping block you can click on, and you can buy a 1, 2, or 3 year subscription. And they're reasonably inexpensive to subscribe. I don't know offhand what it is. I think it's around $16 a year.
Oh yeah.
And that's what we prefer. I mean, realistically, we want people to get the magazine in their hands. We want them to feel it, smell it, and enjoy the thing. We take pride in producing a coffee table quality magazine, and we just want people to hold it and get a look at it and enjoy the thing.
You bet. Yeah. There's something about. I read and I do. I write for several places that are strictly online, and there's some great outdoor magazines that are online too. But there's something about picking up a newspaper or a magazine, and just I'm sure I'll always do it. Makes you wonder though, youngster, people in their teens and all coming along, down the road. Hopefully there'll be enough of them that understands how much fun it is really to look forward to a magazine coming in or something like that.
I'll tell you, when I started feeling pretty good about the magazine, I started this magazine shortly before I retired, from my lifelong career.
Yep.
And I was down to my last 2 or 3 days at work, and I was really just riding around visiting some of the people that I'd made friends with over the years. And one fella, he lives right outside the city limits on a little blacktop road, and he and I visited quite a bit over the last 2 or 3 years. I was going down his road, and he was hollering and waving his hands. Well, of course, I thought, well, one of the other guys told him I was retiring. I pulled in there, and he said, my wife, she's had a heart attack. I said, my Lord. So I run in with him and called for an ambulance. And she had not had a heart attack. She had a mini stroke.
Mm-hmm.
And she is fine. Now she's fine. But at that time, she'd had the stroke and fallen down in the master bathroom. And we got her taken care of and got her on to the hospital. And we took some photographs at that time just in case something out of the ordinary caused that. And when we were taking the photographs, we noticed a life and land on the back of the toilet. And I said, well, we've made it, boys.
Well, she knew what good reading was all about, Kelly.
Isn't that right?
I want to make sure that people know how to find it. Online, friends, you can go to lifeandlandmagazine.com, and they can contact you through there if they want to reach you, can't they, Kelly?
Absolutely. My phone number is right there on the webpage. So.
Good deal.
Yeah, we're real easy to get a hold of.
You are. Well, again, hats off to the magazine and what you do, and much continued success to you, buddy.
Well, thank you a million. We sure appreciate you and all the readers.
Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you had a good time, too. And, folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game. Lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring.